Spring cleaning? 5 tips to clean up your diet? Where do we start?
We should all care about our labs because they tell us what's happening to us metabolically. We don't want to just be on par. We want to be optimal.
So one of our tips is going to be around preventing fatty liver disease. What is that tip for spring cleaning?
Welcome to the show, everyone.
This is not just the show. It is the Be Well Now podcast. Probably the most riveting show on any podcast platform.
I love that word, riveting. It got right to me.
Riveting is what spring cleaning your diet is all about.
Exactly right.
You're Dr. Ron Dummar?
I am Dr. Ron Dummar with Community Health and Wellness here in Heber, Utah.
I'm Nick. I'm a patient of yours. We've had this podcast for a couple years. It is a passion project. You're out here healing folks, and you were saying, I'm looking at the blood labs, right, of my patients, and here's some themes that I'd like to address as we enter the spring. Why should we care about the blood labs? What is that telling you about what's happening with folks right now?
Well, interestingly enough, we should all care about our labs because they tell us what's happening to us metabolically, right? Let's do a systems check of your car, right? Give me 21 point or 40? I don't even know what that number is, but I go in and I ask them to do it so that I can actually license my vehicle and drive. So anyway, they do this check just to make sure it's up to par. And that's what we want to do. Making sure it's up to par is literally just drawing your labs, but we want to go a step beyond that. We don't want to just be on par. We want to be optimal. So in our office, we don't just make sure that you pass the inspection. We make sure also that you have the tools and equipment and the recommendations that you need to experience vitality and true health.
Word. I want both of those.
Yeah.
I want both of those. So the labs are telling you what's happening with your patients. Spring cleaning? 5 tips to clean up your diet? Where do we start?
That is a good question. Where to start? I would say number 1 would actually be if you haven't had your labs, if you haven't gone in and gotten your check, then do it with your trusted healthcare provider. And if that happens to be us, or if you're near us, or if you want to have us evaluate your labs, call in and we can send you to a draw facility near you, and we can do that for you.
I thought I was pretty healthy, and I got my labs done a few years ago here, and I was on the way to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which I didn't realize.
You were definitely pointed in that direction.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share some of my story, but because I knew where I was headed, I was able to address with you with supplements, herbs, and some dietary changes. How do we steer this ship? I'm not saying that I'm there, but it's like, I think we reversed it actually, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually, no, that actually worked.
You're not on that path anymore.
Yeah.
You're not even pointing in that direction. And the interesting thing is that somewhere between 30 and 40% of the American population is in that same boat. Okay, this is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Which I don't think people even realize what that is, because I was totally shocked by it.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, when we hear about fatty liver disease, we think of alcoholism, right? We think of alcoholic liver. Right. And that we know that alcohol is going to affect your liver. And at some point, if we drink too much alcohol, we end up with liver disease, fatty liver disease. But why is that? Well, one of the reasons that is because alcohol quickly transfers or becomes sugar. So it transfers quickly into sugar in the blood. And then that requires the liver to process all of that sugar. So if your diet, conversely as well, is high in sugars, breads, pastas, candies, cookies, cakes, all those things that make your tongue go zing, 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 right? Even some of these food dyes and additives. But if it's really high in those, then your likelihood and chances of developing non-alcoholic, because you may not be drinking alcohol thinking you're saving yourself, but you're consuming copious amounts of sugars and breads and pastas, which leads to fatty liver disease also.
So one of our tips is going to be around preventing fatty liver disease. What is that tip for spring cleaning?
So I think with that tip, the best way to approach that is to say, avoid processed foods. Begin the process of eliminating. Go through your pantry. Go through your pantry and be like, okay, which of these are processed? Well, everything has a process. When I cook food at home, that's a process, sure. But we're looking even for the ultra processed things that you have this list of ingredients on a package, and most of them you don't know what they are. That's ultra processed. Or if it's got these red 40, yellow 5, blue 20, what is it? Blue 2, blue 20? I forget what the blue one is. But anyway, there's these dyes. If it's got any of the dyes, if it's got I was with a patient the other day, and I was like, yes, send me the vitamin C, send me the supplements that you have, all right? And show me pictures of them, and I'll let you know if it's okay for you to utilize them in place of the ones that I would recommend. So he sends me this. I shouldn't probably mention the brand. So he sends me this picture of the label and of the front, and then I have the ingredients, and I look at it and I go, okay, some of the ingredients in here there's like 3 or 4 sweeteners, for instance. I think it was a chewable tablet, so some sweeteners would make sense. But the sweeteners were like sucralose. Okay? And we've had discussions on this podcast about the nefarious aspects of sweeteners on our health and how they can even be tumorigenic. Okay, so he had this, plus there was other preservatives that are in this, multiple preservatives and additives and fillers, and then dyes. And I'm like, I wouldn't trust this with any of my patients. I wouldn't give this product to any of my patients. And one of the products is actually caustic to patients' health. Okay, like if you go back and you look at it and you do if you do some research on it, potassium hydroxide, it is potentially caustic to your health.
Well, folks,
and here it is in a vitamin.
Well, because it's a financial investment to get your blood levels tested and then to get all the supplements, and maybe people are like, all right, I heard from Dummar, now I'm going to go shop the interwebs and find a cheaper supplement, or I've got something sitting at home from my
cut some corners or something.
Exactly, yeah. And I could see that mentality, but you're trying to source the right stuff to help people heal. And,
yeah, well,
and be their coach, right? You're not telling them they can or can't. You're just trying to be a coach.
Absolutely, and I don't tell them they have to purchase it here or they have to purchase the one that I say. Obviously, I recommend that one. I think it's the best option, but I'm going to support them and coach them along the way, regardless. And I hope that they follow my recommendations. But I saw this really neat portrayal of an artist, and I feel this way maybe sometimes as a doctor. And this portrayal I think will help patients. And if I can find it, maybe I'll give it to you and you can post it up.
All right.
But it's this portrayal of an artist, and he's painting this picture, and he starts on the back end, and the portrait is of this horse, right? Extremely elegant, the tail, the hooves, the leg, and you can see the definition in the muscle, and you can see the hair, and you can see the way it lays down and the shine and glistening of it. And then as it moves across, it transfers into the front portion of that horse becomes more of a stick figure, right? Drawing. So you've got the posterior aspect of it, the rear aspect is this beautiful, immaculate, elegant horse, and the front part is just a stick figure of the horse, right? And then what it says is, yes, I'll cut down my fees to appease your desire to cut costs and savings on my art, right? And essentially that's what the artist was portraying, is he's like, oh yeah, when people ask you, hey, how can I do this in a cheaper way, right? How can I get your services in a cheaper way?
Because that's how they're viewing every part of their life.
Sure.
So I get why.
Yeah, but it's like what you're choosing is, instead of the elegant horse, right, the full service, what you're choosing really is that stick figure.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You just have to realize that's what you're choosing.
It can work in so many facets of life, but it feels like when it comes to health, there's just like a whole lifetime of decisions and environmental causes and bad food that got us here, or that's how I feel about me. And I had to realize, like, the healing and the healthy life that I want is just a process that never ends, and it's not a light switch. But if I really look back 2-3 years from where I was, it's easy to just take these things for granted. That's the paradox of it all. But it's like, oh yeah, there's been a lot of improvement along the way.
Absolutely.
And then there's been some times where I feel like I've come, I've 2 steps forward or 1 step forward and 2. Sometimes it feels like you're not on the path, but But it's an investment. You know, I appreciate
being
what you
healthy
do.
doesn't mean that you don't get sick. I think and we've talked about this a number of times, but being healthy doesn't mean that you're never going to have exposure to a pathogen. Being healthy just means you've fortified yourself against the pathogen as well as possible so that when you do confront it, you're as strong and robust as possible to clear it. And that's it. That's healthy, right? So we all are going to confront these pathogens in our life, and we need to just create the status of health as well as possible. And one of our foundational principles, or our first, essentially our first tip here, is to eat farm-to-table food. And what that means essentially is eating food as closely as possible from its original source to your table. And most of what we consume right now, we'll get produce from Chile or from Brazil or from all over the world, right? From Thailand. We have food sources that come from all over the world, and those food sources grow in a specific biotic culture, right? So they have with them a biotic culture that it delivers to the local people who consume them, and that helps basically immunize them to the local biota, right? Well, when we consume our local food or food grown in our local environment, it helps to essentially like immunize us, or at least familiarize our body. It trains us, it fortifies us to be able to create balance with our local environment. So when we're eating food from all over the world, we're not necessarily promoting a balance here where we currently live. And so sometimes we can create a dysbiosis just by not sourcing food locally. The other thing that like farm to table eating does, it benefits us because, well, it is more of a local, you're supporting someone more local, right? And I'm a fan of supporting local. I think it's important to make sure that we have local farmers, local growers. Even if you're just growing herbs and plants and things in your backyard, that's a good way to start. But as much as possible, what we need to do is eat locally from farm to table, from that original source where eat things that grow in the ground. Eat things that grow in the ground. So that's the produce section. That's a good step. Even if it's coming from around the world, that's a good step from eating a product, right? And then from there saying, okay, now what we'd like to do is eat something as close to my locale as possible. And so that's going to help your body. It's going to help your body because it'll provide methyl factors. These foods that you consume that are real food, they contain methyl factors. Methyl factor is a carbon attached to hydrogen. It's a basic building block of everything that's living, okay? So living things deliver an intelligence that is required for our bodies and our cells to function. When we consume methyl factors, farm-to-table food, we consume that intelligence, and our bodies use that light and use that intelligence to function properly.
These vegetables, even though we try to scrub them all down and clean them after we buy them, just to make sure the skin is all, free of anything, don't they have like actual living? Isn't the like the red pepper that I'm like consuming like still alive with its own bacterial culture? And I mean,
for sure,
it's a living thing, right?
Yeah. So if you're wanting to, again, it's paying attention to the source. If you know that the source that you're utilizing has utilized herbicides, pesticides, you'll definitely want to wash that. You'll want to clean that. And you're cleaning it not necessarily to clean the food product, but you're cleaning it to try to minimize as much exposure of yourself to the pesticide and herbicide. Okay. But if you have food or food sources that are grown very close to you without any herbicide or pesticide on it, then all you need to do is nice and gently wash it, right? And then consume it. So oftentimes with fruit, like people, they'll rub it on their shirt and then they'll eat it, right? That works, of course, if it's a non-pesticide, herbicide food. So if it's an apple or a plum or a fruit, something that you pick directly off the tree, rub it on the shirt and eat it. Absolutely.
I'm just saying, aren't they still alive though?
The living. Yeah, absolutely. It's living. It's a living food. It's a living organism, right? And part of the reason we know it's living is because it gets consumed by other living organisms. Okay. So, and mold will grow on it. A variety of different, right? Things will happen and it decomposes at some part. So that's a living thing. Things that are not living are like that burger that is left, accidentally in the dormitory under the bed. And then you find it 3-4 months later and it looks almost the same as the day you bought it.
Right.
That's not living. So it doesn't decay. It doesn't change, I wouldn't recommend eating it. I wouldn't recommend eating it at the beginning or at the end of that stage.
You're not anti-meat. You're saying the preservative-laden burger from the fast food joint.
So we want to be really careful with that. But the living food and a lot of that living source that you're talking about, you think about what allows a plant or initiates the process of the plant to begin to reach up through the ground, to sprout and to grow. It's light. The intelligence, the growth factor, and it's the same thing like with our kidney. We have organs in our body that respond to light. It allows us to produce certain hormones and certain chemicals in our body naturally that produce hormones and that allow us to function naturally and healthy. So just like the sun provides light and allows that plant to sprout up and to grow, it continues to provide light for that plant throughout its life. And that light plays a significant role in the health of that plant. And when we consume it, we're also consuming that intelligence, that light, a healthy plant that was supported by its natural environment.
What about fats and protein?
Oh,
how many tips do we got left?
I know. We spent a lot of time on tip number 1. Well, I guess we did 2 as well because we talked about processed foods. So that's good. That was tip 2. Get rid of processed foods and dyes.
That's good for your liver, right?
So fats.
Processed foods, reducing them.
Getting rid of the processed foods and the sugary breads, pastas, all the things that are very quickly metabolized and turn into sugar are going to lead to more fatty liver disease. Plus, all of these chemicals and dyes, it requires your liver again to process them. And so again, it's going to lead to more tax on the liver. And so therefore you're going to develop fatty liver disease. So healthier fats, we want to simply make some swaps or changes here, choose healthier fats. Oftentimes people are using canola oil, rapeseed oil, a variety of different seed oils. We want to try to get rid of the seed oils. Canola oil, rapeseed oil, they were actually using it as a lubricant in tanks in World War II.
Really?
Yeah. Did you know that?
I did not know
That's kind of cool, huh? That's nice to know.
Sounds like a nice cheap way to. Wow. And so we use that in our food supply. I feel like a lot of vegetable oil and different seed oils are used in restaurants because they're cheap, right?
Yes.
Or do they work well? Why?
They're very cheap. But there are much better options like tallow, for instance, very, very good quality oil. Coconut oil is a very good quality oil. Olive oil is good. And again, cold pressed organic olive oil. Ghee, even ghee is a really good oil, which essentially ghee is clarified butter. So you take butter and you simmer it, you bubble it, right? You simmer it for a little while. And there's a process to this. You simmer it and then essentially you pour it off and then you have ghee. So ghee is clarified butter and it is also a very good oil, but all of those options, and they're way better for you. And think about this, when you eat poor quality oil, your triglycerides go up, your liver actually has to process that. You can develop fatty liver. Poor quality oils lead to inflammation in our body. These are high in omega-6s, high in inflammatory processes. So it leads to inflammation in our body. Inflammation leads to a cardiovascular disruption. So then we can develop more sores and lesions within the cardiovascular system. Then that has to be repaired. Well, what is that repaired by? It's repaired by fats that are made by the liver. The liver has to produce more fat, so our cholesterol goes up. So then all of a sudden we're sending all this cholesterol to the cardiovascular system. Cardiovascular system, the liver starts sending all these fats in. We're packing in all of these things, creating little scabs of cholesterol in the cardiovascular system. All of a sudden we have fatty plaquing. We've developed this process of fatty plaquing over and over and over again, and eventually we have occluded arteries, and then we have a stroke, or we have a thrombus, right? Or we have a heart attack. And those are all things we want to avoid. And generally, we avoid those things by saying, oh, we need to cut down on your cholesterol, so here's a medication. We're going to have you stop this right away. But again, remember, what is it that that fatty cholesterol does? That's the scab. That's the healing tissue for the cardiovascular system. It's also the healing tissue for the brain. So what you need is more fat, but quality fat. You have to have quality fat with anti-inflammatory properties like omega-9s and omega-3s. Okay?
So tell me what to eat.
Avocados, olives are really good. And even, honestly, a lot of people have shied away from eating meat, or they'll say, don't eat meat. But eating red meat is actually good for you. Eating good quality, well-sourced red meat is a quality thing to do. And you can get a lot more nutrients and benefits and fats, quality fats, from eating and consuming meat than you can a lot of other foods that people might eat. So what we've done, historically, as a culture, what we've done is we've pushed people away from kind of these naturally occurring foods. Like meat is a food that occurs naturally, and we have to harvest it, right? We have to slaughter it, and that's just part of the process. And plants, we've pushed people away from plants, well, for most part, because people are like, well, I don't want to eat my vegetables. I don't like my vegetables, right? Okay, it's harder. So what do? We have to decide, we're going to make these food products, is what we did. All of a sudden, we pushed people towards these food products that initially may have resembled somewhat food, but now don't resemble food at all. There's food products have nothing to do with food. And it's interesting, we were talking a little bit before the show, but I think what a lot of people don't realize is there are even companies within our country that make a food product for us, and then they make a similar food product for Europe or other nations. Mm-hmm. And because of the laws in those countries, they make them with different ingredients. So you can see, a Fruit Loop type cereal made for us, and then some similar type cereal made for Europe have completely different ingredients, much healthier ingredients made for Europe. And you were saying, it's like, I really think that they're just trying to do what they can based on the laws that are over them and minimize their cost as much as possible.
I wondered how much of it was intentionally malicious, or just people doing their jobs trying to save money and make profit. And I don't think that it's a one or the other.
I don't think people are going out there saying, I want to hurt people. I literally think they're going out there saying, we want to minimize our cost, maximize our profit, and stay within the laws.
Right.
How can you blame them if they're literally within the law?
They're not doctors passionate about natural health. They may be passionate about making their business grow or doing well at work. And
then the FDA says to them, you can use those products.
I'm not the expert on food safety. Let the experts tell me what the rules are, and then I'll play within those rules.
Yeah.
It's very confusing to be like, well, the rules are this, but actually it has to be. I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's an onus on us. It's like we as communities, we have to do more. We have to speak to our representatives. We have to do as much as possible to say we need to start taking control of our health as a nation, right?
It's just very confusing to talk to my kids about it, because it's like if there's an FDA that creates rules, but those rules are nowhere near enough.
Right.
So my kids are taught to there's rules in the school, right? And there's certain things you got, but then there's other rules that I'm telling them are not good enough. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, it's a confusing world to live in. So it's probably a confusing world to try to parent as well. It's don't trust all these things that have 17 ingredients, because those are not going to serve you well. They're not good for your health. But I wish there was just something simpler for them to enter into in this world where here are the rules. They're meant to keep you safe.
Yeah. It's why if I'm a child or I'm even a new mother, why on earth do my baby formula products have contaminants in it? And why does it have sucrose in it? Why does it have sugar, like processed, highly refined sugar in it, right? Why can't it be more representative of actual breast milk? Why can't we make it a more natural product? Because a number of these things that are in breast milk, right, are not in the formula. And that there's a whole lot of things that are not in the formula in Europe that actually find their way into the formula here in the United States. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has actually met with a lot of the manufacturing companies already for that, who make baby formula. And he's asked them to eliminate it, to get rid of all of those excess ingredients. I mean, look at that. You're giving an infant highly processed, ultra-processed sugar, right, as part of the ingredient of their baby formula.
Hey, my mom apparently gave me sugar water when I was a crying baby, so that may explain a lot.
Well, there you go. And some, I guess, for teething, you give liquor or something. Is that what it is?
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, they're all types. They're all types. But the reality is, that's what we're giving people.
Yeah.
And that's what mothers are trusting. And we have actually known contaminants, but it's allowed, right?
The balance between overthinking everything and trusting nothing for my mental health and just accepting that I will be exposed to a decent amount of things and I hope I can do the best I can with it. It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Because I could overthink and be concerned about every little every time I drink my water and I filter it, I'm like, well, the local water supply isn't very good. I'm still probably getting, is my water clean enough? Probably not. Am I getting plastic in me from everything I eat every day? Probably. Should I ever trust anything in a restaurant?
World.
Probably not. I don't know. It's just, it's exhausting. And yet I don't want to give up. We don't give up, right?
Yeah. Well,
we stay with it.
Well, I've had this knowledge for a long time, and that knowledge grows as I study and I develop. But yeah, so what you're saying is I'm really pressed, let's say, with this idea of, okay, well, how do I function in society reasonably and actually still live here and enjoy the place that I'm living without stressing myself out over every single ticky-tacky little ingredient, right? Well, I know I'm going to have exposures. I know that. Well, and honestly, around the time of COVID was the same thing. Like, I had to know. It's the same mentality, what you're bringing up to me. Okay, I have to know if there's a virus about, I'm going to be exposed to that. I'm going to have exposures. So what do? I'm going to have exposures. I can't just say, okay, I'm not going to have exposures. I'm not going to have an exposure. Well, no, you are going to have exposure regardless of what you do, whether you wear a mask, whether you stay away from people, whether you shelter yourself in your house, you will have an exposure because it's ubiquitous, which means it's everywhere. Viruses can get everywhere. They're so small. One of the differences between viruses and bacteria is their size. It's so tiny. The viruses are so small. And so they do get everywhere. They are ubiquitous. We are going to be exposed to certain these things, right? And so you have to use the best knowledge that you have and protect yourself the best you choose to. A mask may be one of the things that people choose to do, right? But then you have to recognize at the same time, even with all my precautions, I may still get exposed to the virus. So knowing that I may still get exposed to the virus regardless of all my precautions, what is the level of effort that I'm willing to put into this, or the level of stress that I'm willing to put into this topic as far as building up my fortress? Well, what I think is a recommendation. One, I think what we've talked about is, well, read your labels. Read the labels of all the food. Get to know what these ingredients are, right? So that's a good place to start. Another thing is just make sure you know where you are metabolically. Like, make sure that you're metabolically healthy. Make sure that you're working with somebody that can help you be healthy and strive for health, and give you some tips or strategies when you may have an exposure that is going to help you clear that as quickly as possible.
Do we want to talk about some swaps here?
Yeah, let's do it. Last minute or two.
Yeah.
So I think some really healthy swaps. I actually utilize these myself. A long time ago, I have limited, even reduced. I'm not celiac or anything, but the wheat bread, the heavy breads, I stopped eating. Like if I go out to a restaurant, I'll limit or not eat any of the bread or the bun, right? And so if I get a burger, like sometimes we will order a food, or we'll order hamburgers, and I'll order like a bison burger with lettuce. And so basically I'm ordering like a steak salad of some sort, right? A poor man's steak salad, you could say. So swapping out your breads or your wheat is a really good idea, but we do have options. Like in pasta, for instance, there are other options. We live in a great time for this. So you can do lentil. You can swap out your wheat pasta for lentil, for rice pasta, for chickpea pasta. You can also you can do spaghetti squash, or you can even do zucchini. You peel it down into little spaghetti strips, right? And so there's a variety of different ways to actually have what is similar to pasta. And you can put your red sauce, or you can put a different sauce, or olive oil, which I think is the best. You just put some olive oil and some salt and pepper on there, and you're good to go. But oftentimes people want to have it with a little meatball and the red sauce so that it feels a lot more like spaghetti to them. So that's something you can do. Another thing is swapping out the seed oils. We mentioned this already too, but look through your pantry. Check out, see if you do have seed oils, if you have this canola oil, if you have these poor quality oils. And generally, at the store, they're going to be the cheapest oils in the largest amount that you'll be able to get in bulk. Those are not the oils that you want to be consuming. And so you want to swap them out for olive oil, cold pressed, organic. You want to swap it out for coconut oil, for ghee, and avocado or avocado oil. Those are fantastic oils that are going to support the health of your cardiovascular system and your nerves. It's going to help with anti-inflammatory effect to neural tissue as well. So, you get a bigger bang for your buck, 2 for 1, right?
Yeah.
The last thing is that people really like snack bars. Now, the first thing to do is say, look at the snack bar, or is it a candy bar? Well, if it's a candy bar, then you can move to like a protein bar. Protein bar is going to be a little bit slightly healthier, right, for you than a typical candy bar. Okay, so that would be the first thing. But then from there, say, okay, well, what's going on? Maybe I can do a fruit bar. There are companies that make quality bars, and when you look at the ingredients, it's literally like pecans, almonds, and something else, right? And there are other companies that do like little fruit bars. So you can find these. One of the companies, I'll just mention it. Well, Bill, there's 2 that come to my mind right now. Lara bars. Are you familiar with those? You can look at the ingredients still. I'm not saying 100% of them are good, but what I've seen from the Lara bars is that they literally list out like 3 actual food product in their ingredients, and that's it. They don't have any other additives or fillers. Okay, so check those out. And then also, that's it. You just mentioned it. That's it. Bar.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are a little boring. They're just fruit.
Yeah, they're just fruit.
But they're healthy for you.
Yeah, and they're just basically kind of dried and smashed out and put into a bar, and that's it. Literally.
Actual food. Yeah.
So it's food. Those are great. Now the next step would be, okay, why not just trade those out completely for raw nuts like pecans, walnuts would be really good. Seeds, just having some seeds. I like telling people include some sprouts, like sprout seeds. Get some sprouting seeds, put them in your window, eat those frequently, and you'll experience a lot greater health just by these 5 tips.
I love it. Hey, I believe this has been another episode of the Be Well Now podcast.
Oh, it sure has. And an applause at the end. Can you believe we get applause?
It's like
that
one of those.
That just started recently, didn't it?
We should get a laugh track too.
Yeah, there we go.
Some 90s sitcom.
Yeah, we totally throw down the jokes here.
We're a comical duo.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
We call it the sit-down comedy.
I don't know what's happening. Be well now, everybody. Namaste.
Namaste. Thanks for listening. If you made it this far, like and subscribe.
We appreciate you. Bye-bye.